everybody. Welcome to Quilling with Jess. Thank you so much for joining this monthly live stream class. I want to say welcome to my new member, Michael H. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'll enjoy and create some fun paper art with us. Today we're going to be doing lupins, and I'm really excited to show you this fun and kind of simple project, but tends to be one of my more popular designs because it's so universal. So I hope that you enjoy, and if you're just here for the day, for a drop-in, I hope that you'll consider joining to see these fun live streams every month. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Happy crafting! Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining our monthly live stream class. Today we're going to make lupins, which are one of my favorite cards and hangers to make. They're pretty simple, pretty repetitive pattern with these petals. And I see them so often in our travels, like we'll travel to the West Coast or right now in Arizona. So today you can choose between card, if that's who you have, or a postcard, or I also did an example for fingers, frame and to spice up with energy. That's a function as well. So I'm going to keep those out as kind of a visual guide will go. Right? So like always, I'm going to go through what we have as far as supplies. So if you're familiar with quilling supplies, you're going to skip this part, but I would like to go through just to be nervous of anybody else. You have the list of strips that you're going to need, and so I'll just kind of pull those out each at a time when we're going that strips part, so that way they're not cluttering our screen here. But we do have our circle sizer. The circle sizer is good for, like I said, we're going to have these repetitive petals, and so having them the same size is going to be our goal for various levels. And the circle sizer is going to help us do that by putting them in the same circle each time. So put that aside for now. You'll want some type of tweezers. I have a couple examples here. I like these dull tweezers because I can really get in there, pick things up precisely. And then some form of quilling tool. I like slotted quilling tools. There are also needle quilling tools that you can use, where the end of this is just a straight pin. And so you wrap the paper around without having some sort of an anchor. However, both of these are slotted quilling tools, and they have a little slot at the top. So this section right here is an opening, and it's open all the way to the top, so you can load your paper from the top. It anchors in this little slot here, and it holds on to it really well. So I like that. Definitely your preference if you would like to do something else. I also have our school glue here. It's just a Elmer's glue, but I have put it in a fine tip glue bottle. All right. So let's go ahead and start off with our shapes that we want to make for these. And like I said, it's going to be the same shape for each of the petals. So once I've told you and instructed you how to make the shape, it'll be pretty simple. However, some of these, like you see, are different sizes. So we'll just talk about length of strip and each circle sizer opening as we go. So I'm going to pull out my circle sizer. I'm also going to have my glue at the ready. You might find it's beneficial to store it on its side while you're working because they do tend to. So let's start off with that top petal first. This white one here. It is the only one that we're not gonna kind of curve like these. And the shape that this is called is a teardrop. I'm doing this on white, and it's, like I said, it's about half straight. So when you're quilling and you're using this slotted quilling tool, we're gonna locate the slot. I can see it here. I know it's very right. You take your strip, and these are 3mm, which I like for cards because once you go to mail them or put them in an envelope, they're a lot shorter instead of being thick 5mm. So I'm gonna load this into my quilling tool in that slot there. Like I said, you can load it from the top. And the position I like to use for my fingers is my finger on the bottom and my thumb on the side, and just kind of wedge that in there. And the reason I like this is then you have a good control and good handle on the paper, and you can kind of keep it all together as you're wrapping it around. So that's what we're going to do now. You just start turning it towards yourself and just try to keep it wedged between your finger and thumb so that way it's sticking all together and it's not cascading down the comb or anything like that. And we're going to coil this all the way to the bottom. When you get there, you can use your thumb on your other hand here to push that up so that way it doesn't get stuck in the slot. And you just want to thumb and finger of this hand, of your other hand, to take it off. So I'm not pinching it, I'm not trying to hold it too tight, but I am just trying to make sure that it's not gonna pop open once I take it off there. So now we're gonna locate our circle sizer. And this top petal here, I'm gonna say we'll put it into the 12mm on your circle sizer. Now, all of these circles are in millimeters diameter. And then this particular circle sizer has a ruler at the top. It's all centimeters, so that's kind of nice. There's various types of these. This is just the one that I use for classes, just to kind of keep it universal. So here we go. We're going to put it inside the number 12, and you're just going to try to lay it in there and let it open up. Now this one is not opening all the way, so that's all right. We'll just let it open up as much as it's going to. Sometimes if you have one that isn't wanting to open, tapping it will kind of help it to open up a little bit. So then I'm going to take my tweezers, and I like to grab on the outside and then somewhere near the middle. It doesn't have to be the exact middle, but just somewhere near there. And then I'm going to pick it up. So there you go. You can kind of see it's the same shape as when it was in the circle. It's the same size, and we want to kind of keep it that way. So then you can either put the glue on while it's still in your tweezers. I personally like to switch it over to my other hand and put the tweezers down. And then we're just going to put one dot of glue. I know this is a poor color choice for the first dot of glue, but one dot of glue is all that you need for this. All right. And we're going to pat that down so that it glues to the circle. So it's all one piece now and stuck at that shape and that size. All right. So from this, then we're going to make the teardrop shape. As you can see, it's pointed on one end and rounded at the top. So we're going to pull from the center on one side, and then on the other, we're going to pinch and make it a point. So that you have a teardrop. All right. So that's the first one. We'll put that aside. Now I'm going to start the rest of the petals going up from the bottom. And the bottom color I'm going to use this time is the navy blue. You can use whatever color you like. This one has like a maroon, a navy, dark purple, and light purple. This one just has dark purple and light purple. However you like to style it, you can make it rainbow for, exciting colors. Now we're going to quill that just the same way. So you're going to load it in your slotted quilling tool, finger and thumb, and then turn it all the way. Quill it all the way to the bottom. And when I get to the end of these, if it's a full strip, so then it has that straight edge, I like to tear off that edge, because then when I glue it, this frayed edge is going to blend in much better when I glue it down instead of having a harsh line. So we'll take that off the same way as we did before. And this time we're going to want to use a bigger loop. So I am thinking I'm going to use this 18 and see if it opens up all the way. And it does. So this 18 right here, we're going to go ahead with our tweezers again, pick that up the same way, and either glue it while you're holding it in the tweezers or switch hands. One little dot. Now you can see that much better. And we don't want a ton of glue on these because think of it like getting the paper wet with water. If it's too saturated, it's going to be wilted and it will look a little wrinkled. All right, once I got that glue down, I'm going to make that teardrop shape again by pulling on one side and pinching to point on the other. And then I'm going to use my finger on the top, my thumb on the tip, and I'm just going to pull and make a little curve. Let's see if we can get you a good view of that. So there you go. So that way it's just a little curve. We don't need like a full arc or anything, but just a little curve. And you can play around with it, see how much you want it to be twisted. And there you go. Now we're going to do that exact same color and opening size one more time. So we have our full navy blue strip. I'm going to load it finger and thumb and coil it all the way to the bottom. And again, when you get to the bottom, just tear off a little bit there. Pull it off your quilling tool. And it was the 18 that we used, so we're going to use that again. Alright, let's go ahead and pick that up. And we'll glue that. One little dot. Close it up. And pull one way. Pinch the other. And then use your finger on the top, your thumb on the point, and give it a little curve. Alright, there's number 2. So, then, this next one is pretty close to the same size. You can decide to do the same size for these. I'm going to use the same length of strip. I'm going to still use a full strip, I think, this time for these 2 petals. And I'm going to try putting in the 16 and see if I like it that way. However, this is where a little bit of kind of discernment. If you like it more open like this, then you might choose the 18. So let's take a look at both of them. All right. So I've got my full length of navy blue. I'm going to do 2 layers of navy blue today. You can choose any colors you like. Make it your own. I'm going to tear off that little piece in the bottom. So now it's the same length of strip as these, but if I put it in the 16, you can see it's just a little thicker in appearance around the edges instead of being so open. So if you look there, you can kind of see more of that ridge around the outside. So I'm going to go ahead with it. I like it. We'll pick that up the same way and glue it the same way. Now, if you're having any issues with kind of keeping up or um, deciding on your petal colors while we go, so maybe you fall behind, don't worry. We're doing the same shape over and over. And also, in the next few days, I will have this recording edited to you and posted up on Patreon. So you'll be able to come back and rewatch if you were having any issues or you want to try it again. Sometimes, the first attempt will be, fun and you'll get it done, but you want to try and your hand at doing it again and seeing if you can improve. I definitely encourage that. It can be addicting. All right, I got one more long strip. We're going to just quill that all the way to the end again. Tear off the bottom. Take it off. And put it in that 16 millimeter again. Now sometimes these will jump out and can be frustrating, but unfortunately the best trick is to pull it out and coil it up again and start from the beginning. Sometimes you can squeeze it back in there without having to use your quilling tool, but oftentimes not. Alright, glue that down, pull one side, pinch the other, and then just like all the other colored petals, we're gonna kind of twist that side. There. Alright. So you see these two were from they're the same length of strip, but in different circle sizer openings. So you see there's just a tiny bit of difference, and it'll be noticeable enough once we put them together on our card. Alright, so next we're going to do a purple, and these are 3/4 length strips. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing with these for the quilling part. Load them in between your finger and your thumb, twist them all the way up. This one is trying to cascade down my hook, so I'm going to keep a better control on it. Alright. Now we're going to take that off. And I am going to let's try the 14 millimeter and see how we like that. I think I like that pretty well. I think that's going to be alright. So let's briefly check the 15, see if we like that a little better. Because it is just a little bit thick on the edges. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the 15. This particular strip is a little wrinkled, and so it's trying to accordion and be a problem, but thankfully, especially since we're shaping it, we can kind of make do. Alright, so one little dot of glue, and we'll close that up. And same thing as before, pinch, and then do your shaping. And give that a little curve. And there you go. See, each of these is just a tiny little bit different from the next one as far as size. Alright. Second purple also is 3/4 of a strip. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Now, this is where you want to remember what you decided. Did you decide on the 14 millimeter or the 15? Because it's not a huge difference, but if you're putting these across from each other, you'll notice a difference if you accidentally put it in the wrong one. Alright, we pull that off, and we chose the 15, so we're going to do that again. I will say it's important to also point out that nature is not perfect, so, if we do put in the wrong one, or if you're thinking that your flower doesn't look perfect, that's nature. So, no problem at all, no shame in not having perfect petals. Right, I'm going to pinch and pull and do our little shaping. Okay. Okay. So we've got those. I'm actually going to keep these sizes together. Sometimes be sure you've not put two different sizes together when you're organizing them. Okay. So now we've got 2 half strips, and then I have 2 little strips. So I'm going to try to do all of these layers. If you want less, you can definitely omit some of the sizes, or if you want them to be smaller or larger, or just for the sake of recreating the example, I'm going to go ahead and stick with those sizes. So this is a half a strip. This is about 19 centimeters or so, give or take. Right, we're going to load it up. Finger on the bottom, thumb on the side, and load that up. Pull that off. Now, I'm going to try for the 12. Let's see how I look. I think that's kind of good. So the 12. Pull that out. Well, the reason I do say that I'm going to try a certain millimeter size is not just because sometimes my mood changes and I like it to look a different way than my example, or a different size than the example. But also, sometimes paper qualities are different, or the thicknesses are a little different. And so something may just really not open up in certain sizes that you're wanting it to. Now, this one's a little bit more angled and kind of not as perfect as some of the other ones that came out, but that's alright. Still work. Right? Let's do our other half strip. Same exact thing. Take that off. And let's put that back in 12 again. Thankfully, both of them opened up about the same. Then going to do again, down, and you can also, if you're having issues or like to try, you can also use your tool to curl those around, but what you will find is they're really going to curl, so just be mindful of that. Lastly, we've got the tulip petals. So I'm going to take these, are each quarter strips. They are 9.5, yeah, 9.5 centimeters or so. Pull them up just the same as always. Take it up your hook. And let's try the 9. I think that's probably as good as it's gonna be a pretty loose one. These are really small strips, so sometimes you can even just use your fingers to line these up. You don't really need a circle sizer. So, do a little dot there, close it up, and you can try to give this a little twist on the end, a little curve. Doesn't have to be anything crazy since it's so small. There you go. Now, where is it? Going to stick there though, so we'll give it just a tiny little extra. There we go. Alright. Up and remove the knife. So I'm going to that again. Open up about the same. You can use that. I'm going to get a little. Right. Goes to the side. Alright. Now, we're going to do one step first. We're going to make our stem, and then we're actually going to set it aside. We're not going to glue it down just yet. So once you have your half a strip, we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to run a bead of glue down this half here, this half of the half strip. And it doesn't need to be anything perfect, just a little glue all the way down. Alright, and when you have that, we'll close it up and run it between our fingers to glue it down. And we want to do this because we're making the stem double thickness. So that way, when we go to stand it up, it will be a little sturdier and it won't try to fall over as much. You may find that you'll need more or less of a stem, just depending on how big your card is or how tall you want it to be. I'm definitely going to use less, but we're going to address that once we get to that step. I'm doing this part first and then setting it aside, also because I want this stem to dry. I don't want the glue that's in here to still be wet, because then trying to glue it down will also be a bit of a issue of saturated glue in there. So let's put that to the side. And then we're going to make a few leaves. And it's up to you how many leaves you make. I'm going to probably make a few. I'll start with 2 and then see how many I actually need. So this is a half a strip. I'm going to tear it in half, so then I have 2 half strips. And let me get one more ready. So if you look at this card, there are the leaves at the bottom, and they're cinching the bottom of the stem together. They're also kind of helping it to stand up, which is also what these petals here do for the stem as well. Because then once I go to mail this card, I'm going to put it in an envelope, but I don't want the stem to fall over. So it's not perfect or anything, but these leaves at the bottom definitely help to keep that as straight up and down as possible. So just a little reason why we're making some leaves. Okay, so we've got our half a strip. Put these 2 to the side, or 3 to the side. And we're going to coil that up just like before. These are actually quarter strips. Quarter to half a strip is fine. Whatever you like. We're going to try the 10. And we'll go ahead and take that out. And glue it just like before. And we can immediately go in and pinch both sides. And try to get some glue bits off of here. There we go. Now, once you've pinched both sides, then you can pull on one side and push on another in opposite directions. So that way you have a little bit more of an S shape. And this is just aesthetic. If you want it to be just pinched on both sides and leave it, that's fine. This is a personal choice. I think it looks a little cooler like that. And we'll do that 3 more times, the exact same thing. So quill that green, whatever shades you've chosen, all the way to the bottom. And we'll put it in that 10 again. Alright. Use my tweezers to pull it out. Or if you're really nimble, you can just use your fingers to pull it out. And we'll give that a little glue. Alright. We're going to go straight in to pinch and pull and push to create that little S shape. And there you have it again. Alright. And 2 more. This one didn't open up quite as much as the whole loop. A little space here. But that's okay. We'll just let it open up as much as it wants. And keep doing the same shape. Because it'll still work for us. Can maybe have that be the top layer if it doesn't open up as much as we want. Alright. Pinch. Both sides. And pull and push. You can get your little S. Alright, and last one. This is our last shape that we're going to make for this card before organizing it and putting it together. Alright. This one, I'm actually going to show you how to open it up without the circle sizer. So we've got our shape here. And then I'll just gradually open up my fingers as much as I want. When I'm satisfied with how far it's opened, then I'll go ahead and glue it. Maybe I'll glue it. This is that point in the class where my glue decides to start sticking together. Okay, here we go. Close it up, pinch, and pull and push. There you have your last S, little leaf. Alright, we're going to put away our quilling tool, so we're done with that. Going to put away our circle sizer, because we're done with that. The rest of this is going to be then organizing our card. So, a tip I will provide as far as quilling on cards is it's really helpful to not fold it before you start gluing. And the reason being for that is once you've folded it, say I'll use this card as an example. Once you've folded it, getting it to lay flat, you might have to use something, and even then it's still not flat. And you want these pieces to lay in a specific spot. So having it still flat from not having folded it is helpful, because even if I try to open this back up after I folded it, it's still just going to be a little tricky. It's not impossible, but just a little helpful tip, which might make your life a little easier. So first, I like to start with the stem, and the reason for that is everything's going to be glued to it, everything's going to center around it, and I want to be sure that I've chosen the right length. So I want to have a little bit of space at the bottom, maybe a little bit more than my fingertip, my fingernail, right there. And then I know that this white piece is going to be at the top, and I want it around there. So I'm probably going to, this is going to be about how long I want my strip to be. So it's up to you. You can cut it where you're ready to detach, or tear it off. I like to tear. It's just a little simpler, requires less tools. Alright, now you decide if you want a perfectly straight standing lupin, if you want it curved, blown in the wind, however you like it. I'm gonna try to do a straight up and down one. Sometimes the paper does not agree with me about that, but we'll give it a shot. And this, like I said before, is where I like to pull in my clear tacky glue. Also, as noted, it is not necessary. You don't have to use clear tacky glue. I don't use clear tacky glue in my classes in person. It's just a personal preference for when I'm making things for shows or for virtual classes. And we're going to do what's called edge quilling for this. So it means instead of putting the glue along the flat side, we're going to put the glue on the edge. So we'll just do a little bead going down. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything. Just try to get it most of the way, and definitely on the edges or the two ends. Alright. Try to put that there a little bit forward. And one thing that I like to do is be sure that I'm not going to miss the middle of the card, because it's so simple to do if you're not paying attention or you forget where your perforation is. So I like to have something here to remind me where the perforation is. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to find the middle. You can also measure this and make a mark if you like. I like to eyeball it, live dangerously. And then I'm just going to set it there, and I'm not going to play around with it. I'm going to do my best to set it down intentionally, maybe pat the edges to be sure that they sit, and then leave it. I'm not going to mess around a ton. If you're having a lot of issues with it sitting down, you can always gently put your tweezers or your quilling tool on top of the green to hold it down. But since we're going to be putting these petals and these leaves, it's not too big of a deal to just let those things be the thing that hold it down. All right. So actually we can put this glue away as well. All right. So now is just a matter of laying things out, seeing how you like where they go. And I like to organize first because then I can just pick up a piece and glue it, pick up a piece and glue it all the way around, kind of like a puzzle, really. So this is my preferred way to organize my cards. However, if you feel confident, you can just pick up a piece and start gluing. I like to lay mine out first. So let's organize this. Make the leaves look a little wild instead of just perfectly prepared. Alright, and then for the petals, we're going to have the curved part, the rounded top is going to be on the top. So this little one doesn't like that piece to stay down. So here we're just gonna kind of angle them like this as we go down. And I like to start from the top on these because then you know how far down your bottom pieces are going to be. Yep, that's it. Alright, so now that we have it all organized, now it makes it that much simpler to then use your tweezers and your glue, pick up a piece, glue on it, put it right back where you found it. So that is what we're going to do. Now, on teardrops, I like to have the part that's going to connect to something else to have a little bit of glue. So in this case, it's just the tip. And they will stay very well. So I only recommend having a little run of glue down the center. And maybe if you feel the need, a little across. So kind of across your next pattern. You might have to nose them just a little bit so they don't get stuck to each of your pieces while you're gluing. And there's one. So then this one, since I want the side to stick to the stem, I'm going to put a little on the side at the tip. And then I'm just going to do one run of glue down because this little tiny one doesn't need a ton of. Same with this one. I'm going to do a little on the outside tip. And then up the stem a little because I want it to stand more. It's starting to lay a little because it's tired. It's tired of doing all the work. So I'm trying to let the petal do some work for it. So I'm actually just going to hold these two for a second so that they really stick together so that the stem will start to pop back up. Last petal. So I'll do the two bigger ones first. They're too big or too small, right? This one, and it's the same thing. Little glue on the spot that's going to fit the stem. And once our glue needs to work, then I'm just going to do one line down these because they're not very big. They don't need a ton of glue. And then just put it right against it, or right against the stem. Oh, good. This is really sticky. There we go. And I'm actually going to hold this against the stem and pinch them together so they'll start to really get solidified together and just stand up that stem a little more. Because he's really trying to lay down. Alright. And then we'll do the little leaf on that side. Got a little bit of glue on my tweezers, so it's trying to make it difficult. Alright, now this, I want it to stick to this bottom leaf and to the stem. So I'm actually going to do a little glue on the inside. That little curve in there. And the outside that we were using before. And then this spot along the bottom. And then I'm just going to wedge it in there and set it down. And if you want, you can do that pinch again with the stem to try to get them to really stick together. Alright. This is the other big leaf. Now, let's decide if we're going to have it come this way, or did we want to have it be more out of the box looking? I think let's stick this one. Okay, just on the outside this time, and the bottom. And we'll just stick that against there. So now, this stem is really shored up because it's got petals going down on the top to hold it up and straight. And then now, here on the bottom, it's got the leaves on both sides. So this center may lean a little one way or the other, but it's not going to flop all the way over. It's not going to get really bent. So this is a good setup for getting that to stand up. Well, let's see, no, we said we didn't want to do, wanted to look a bit more natural, so, or like it's out in nature. So let's do this one. So I want it to stick to both sides. So I'm going to do the outside and the inside, as well as the bottom. So outside and inside and the bottom. Oh, we can save it. There we go. Alright. And I'm just going to set that in there. Alright. And there you have it. So here's our Lupin card that we made today. Our two examples. One example and our other example. So, yeah, very different as far as color schemes, a little different as far as positioning and the leaves, but all lupins, all very similar. Thank you so much for joining this class today. So glad to have you be a part and to be a member of my Patreon, Quilling with Jess. Next month's class is going to be on September 28th, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific. And since it will be around the equinox, we will be making something more fall equinox, autumn related. So stay tuned to see what that's going to look like as we get closer. If you have any questions, let me know over on my Patreon, and be sure to join over there. The chat feature is where you can post your finished products, your projects that you're working on yourself, or if you participated in this class today, you can share how it went and a picture of your finished product. And thank you so much for joining. Happy crafting!